Hello everyone. I wish you all a very good morning. I, Ekta Agarwal, student of MBA second year of SVKM's NMIMS Indore, take this great opportunity on behalf of SVKM's NMIMS Indore to welcome you to the second international virtual conference organized by the School of Business Management, SVKM's NMIMS Indore, in collaboration with Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, CIMA from UK on the topic Advances Business Management and Sustainable Development, further abbreviated as ICABMS 22. Established in the year 1990 in the United Kingdom, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants is the world's largest professional body of management accounting with 232,000 students and members across 176 countries. Recognized by the Royal Charter of United Kingdom, CIMA offers the professional qualification in management accounting, leading to membership titled as ACMA. From January 2012, CIMA, an American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, abbreviated as AICPA, have come together and formed a joint venture called CGMA, which stands for Chartered Global Management Accountant. This enables every CIMA member to the title of CGMA, opening up possibilities across the globe. CIMA students and members work in 4,500 companies worldwide, including the Fortune 500 companies, holding senior positions like the CFO and CEO. What started with baby steps in 1981, NMIMS has today emerged as a globally reputed university. Always socially conscious, the Shri Vile Parle Kelavani Mandal, SVKM, made the decision to cater to the rising demand of management institutes in the country. This led to the birth of Narsi Moji Institute of Management Studies, commonly known as NMIMS. Built on this inspiring legacy, today, NMIMS stands proud as a deemed to be university offering multiple disciplines across multiple campuses. The consistent academic quality, research focus, faculty from top national and global institutes, and strong industry linkages at NMIMS have placed it amongst the nation's prime centers of educational excellence and research today. Indore is a manufacturing and operations heavy city, and NMIMS Indore has its specialization in the same, which helps make the students industry ready. Also, Indore has special SEZs for pharmacy, manufacturing, and IT industries, which help in job influx. As pioneers of this institution, the focus is on setting benchmark on performance and to provide a strong foundation in course content and management techniques. The mission of SVKM's NMIMS Indore is to keep with the university's mission to provide good quality, socially sensitive human resources to the nation. The mission of NMIMS Indore is to be an institution of excellence for learning and collaborative research in management with a deep commitment to people. The vision of SVKM's NMIMS Indore is set in order to attain the stated mission. The campus has identified certain niche disciplines in the field of management to excel in, and accordingly, the stated vision is to inculcate the learner-centric approach in management education. Keeping a legacy in mind, we would begin the conference with NMIMS anthem. I request everyone to please either stand up or put your right hand to your heart in order to respect the anthem.
We do what's right and not what's easy.
is often said prayers are an opportunity to spend time with God. Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge, music, art, wisdom, and nature, represents the free flow of wisdom and consciousness. She is the mother of the Vedas, and chants directed to her, called the Saraswati Vandana, often begin and end with Vedic lessons. Saraswati Vandana is an important Hindu mantra that is recited for music, knowledge, and wisdom. With this in mind, in presence of our chief guest, Venkat Ramanan sir, and our director ma'am, Prachi Gharpure, Associate Dean sir, Dr. Samir Pingle, we would now light the lamp virtually.
या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रान्विता या वीणां वरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेत पद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युत शङ्कर प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा पूजिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा
With God's blessings, I would request our director ma'am of SVKM's NMIMS Indore to please address the meeting. Dr. Prachi Gharpure is the director of SVKM's NMIMS Indore. Dr. Prachi has a PhD in technology from SNDT Women's University and an experience of over 33 years of teaching and education administration. She had joined as a lecturer in electrical engineering department in the year 1985 and was designated as the professor and head of computer department in the year 2006 at Sardar Patel College of Engineering, Mumbai. Her experience includes the time she has served as the principal of Bharati Vidya Bhavan's Sardar Patel Institute of Technology, Mumbai. Dr. Prachi has worked towards getting DST funding for starting IEDC, abbreviation for Innovations and Entrepreneurship Development Cell at SPIT, granted by DST in the year 2011 and 12, and the amount sanctioned was rupees 44 lakh for 5 years, and also for establishing incubation center at SPIT with DST grant, which is one of the most successful incubation centers in Mumbai. Dr. Gharpure has a lot of research publications under her name, including journals, proceedings of referred international conference, international symposium, national symposiums, and more. A few of them are IEEE transactions on education on the topic, a methodical assessment of integrative model-based e-course development, measuring the effectiveness of collaborative learning through technical competitions, National Conference on Innovations in Engineering and Management Education, implementation of career guidance system in undergraduate study for smooth transition to future prospects, National Conference on Innovations in Engineering and Management Education, impact of ICD paradigm, a multi-dimensional approach presented at 33rd ISTE National Convention, Coimbatore, India. Experiences in developing individualized courseware using an integrative model presented at FITIC 2003. International Symposium on ICT and Engineering Teaching held in Montreal, use of interactive multimedia in capacity building. Invited seminar on management of ICT organized by National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration, and more. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ekta. A very warm good morning to the chief guest of today, Mr. Venkat Ramanan, FCMA, CGMA Regional Vice President. We are indeed honored to have you on our platform of NMIMS Indore. All the participants who are participating in these 2 days conference and would be deliberating extensively on the 17 goals that UN has set for sustainable development, faculty of NMIMS, entire NMIMS family, my dear students. Why should we be doing these kind of deliberations? What does a conference of this kind play a role in the life of a researcher, definitely, and you as students? For a researcher, these kind of deliberations help validating the hypothesis that the researcher is putting forward. And it is extremely important that the peer comments that one gets during presentation are to be accounted for. Ekta read an extensive CV of mine, and one of the things that I realized when I was doing my active research is that it is very important not only to just publish, but it's extremely important to participate and present your publication, because it is during these times that the new discussions come up and the new points related to whichever area you are exploring comes up. And all the like-minded clan of researcher, when they sit together, definitely great research comes out of it. For students, it is extremely important to learn how to do research. You are at the stage of your life when within a very short span of time, you would be stepping out in the world and you will be totally on your own. It is at this time that you would realize the importance of, though you would be working as a corporate employee, most of you, but you would realize the importance of doing research. Any role that you are playing, unless it is a well-researched work front that you put forward, the success is difficult. So it is these platforms that give you a chance to learn from the best in the industry, to hear out all the points, all the deliberations that the researchers put forward, to question them, to even contribute to some extent from your side. So I hope that these 2 days are going to be very stimulating, intellectually stimulating for all of us. We have a fantastic program lined up with great keynote addresses and the presentations, and I'm sure each one of us are going to benefit immensely from whatever deliberations these experts put forward for our consideration. I welcome all of you to NMIMS Indore and heartily wish that we could have arranged this conference in physical mode, but the times are different, so this is new normal. I welcome our chief guest of today to NMIMS Indore, and I hope that our hospitality would be to his liking. All the best for the success of this conference, and welcome once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would request Dr. Ramzan Sama, our convener, to address our second international virtual conference organized by School of Business Management, SVKM's NMIMS Indore, in collaboration with Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, CIMA from UK on the topic Advances Business Management and Sustainable Development. Dr. Ramzan Sama, PhD and UGC NET qualified, is a professor in marketing at School of Business Management, SVKM's NMIMS Indore, India. Dr. Sama has over 13 years of experience in teaching and research in eminent management institutes of India. He has authored multiple publications in international and national journals, magazines, book chapters, and case study collections. The publications including the ABDC list, such as Journal of Consumer Behavior, Journal of Internet Commerce, International Journal of Business and Emerging Markets, and so on. His paper titled Impact of Media Advertisements on Consumer Behavior is amongst the most read paper in JOCC, MICA journal listed in Scopus with over 60,000 downloads. Dr. Sama is ad hoc reviewer of prominent international journals, including the ABDC Index, such as International Journal of Contemporary Hospitality and Management, Spanish Journal of Marketing, and Journal of Creative Communications. Dr. Sama is the recipient of Best Paper Award at International Conference and Inspiring Leaders Award from Ascendum. His corporate experience spans across India's well-known corporates such as HDFC Bank, Sun Pharma, and Cadila Pharma. Sir, I request you to please address them.
Thank you so much, Ekta, for the kind introduction. Good morning, everyone. Honorable Chief Guest, Mr. Venkat Ramanan, FCMA, CGMA, Regional Vice President, Asia Pacific. Honorable Director, NMIMS Indore, Dr. Prachi Gharpure. Esteemed Dean, Dr. Samir Pingle. Respected faculty members and co-convener of this conference, Dr. Akshay Joshi. Our valued delegates, audience from all over the globe, office bearers and members of Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, CIMA, UK, my dear students, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I, Dr. Ramzan Sama, convener of ICABMS 2022, wishing you all the best in this new year 2022. May this year brings lots of happiness, prosperity, and overcome all the distress caused in the year 2021. On behalf of organizing committee, I extend my warm welcome to all of our esteemed dignitaries who have spread their valuable time to grace this inaugural ceremony of the second edition of Virtual International Conference on Advances in Business Management and Sustainable Development, abbreviated as ICABMS 2022, being jointly organized by School of Business Management, SVKMS, Nursing Monji Institute of Management Studies, Indore, in collaborations with Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, CIMA, UK. We earnestly welcome our chief guest, keynote speakers from different parts of the world, who in spite of hard-hitting times has accepted our invite to share their insightful thoughts. We extend a heartfelt welcome to all our valued delegates and guests from industry and academia virtually present in this brainstorming affair. We also welcome our student fraternity. I am sure the deliberations made in this 2 days virtual international conference could be quite valuable for all of you. Welcome everyone present over here to ICABMS 2022. As evident now that COVID-19 pandemic is the most significant economic event in our lifetime, this pandemic has halted social and economic life for the spring and summer of 2020 and 2021 and continues to impact nations and citizens alike even worse in the beginning of 2022. So the big concern is what can be done. Fred Rogers, a management thinker, once quoted, "Often when you think you are at the end of something, you are at the beginning of something else." This prompted SBM, NMIMS to collaborate with CIMA UK, and that is how this international conference on advances in business management and sustainable development, ICABMS 2022, was born somewhere in February 2021. Due to recent development in technology, consumer behavior, and environmental changes, corporates, governments, and researchers felt a need for in-depth research and discussions on current industry trends, innovative business models, and practices for sustainable development. United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and local legislations has put pressure on corporates for innovations in product, services, processes across organizational functions and business practices for sustainable development. The UN's Agenda 2030 and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals sets out the economic, social, and environmental dimensions of a sustainable world. This requires joint efforts by governments, businesses, other institutions, groups, and individuals towards building an inclusive and resilient future for the planet. The need of the hour is to work with innovative business practices for sustainable development. ICABMS 2022 would bring together academicians, practitioners, researchers, industrialists, and policymakers to deliberate on strengthening better business practices for sustainable development. In this conference, we have divided paper presentations in 4 distinct sessions comprising of some very interesting and thought-provoking research work. We will be interested to hear the thoughts of youngest breed of researchers, that is our own students, who will be presenting the research work in collaborations with the faculty members and other young researchers and professors from across globe. Validatory sessions is scheduled on 13th January 2022 at 4:30 p.m. onwards, wherein we will be announcing best paper awards and certificate of recognitions. We have planned to telecast live the proceedings throughout social media. We will update you accordingly. In totality, it will be a good learning extravaganza for entire 2 days. Please feel free to ask your relevant queries to our esteemed speakers. With this, I once again extend a warm welcome to you all at ICABMS 2022. Thank you so much. Over to you, Ekta.
Thank you so much for your kind words, sir. Now I would like to request our chief guest, Dr. Venkat Ramanan, to address the meeting. Mr. Ramanan is currently the Regional Vice President for Asia Pacific, Management Accounting of the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, the Association. The association combines the strengths of the American Institute of CPAs, AICPA, and the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, CIMA. Venkat takes the lead for the association's vision, strategy, and growth for the Asia-Pacific region, covering Southeast Asia, Australia, India, and MESANA countries. Venkat is a Chartered Global Management Accountant, CGMA by profession, and a fellow member of CIMA. Besides receiving an executive education from INSEAD, he is also a Master NLP and Certified Performance Coach. The mic is all yours, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Perfect. The brilliance of technology. Namaskar to everyone, and to the director, Prachi Gharpure, thank you for having me with the faculty and the students. I think I must be the most underdressed speaker that you will ever have. I've got so comfortable working from home for the past 2 years that I can't fit into any of my jackets or coats or anything. So it's a new wardrobe. So I hope you don't mind me in the way and attire that I am in. And I always encourage my team also to just be themselves when they go for meetings, because the times have changed in the way we do things. But then again, when I look at all of you all dressed so smartly, I'm put to shame. So my apologies for not meeting the standard that the university has set. But I will try best to address some of the concerns or some of the things that you have asked me to deliberate on. Can the host allow me to share the screen? Because it still says that I can't share the screen.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Thank you. All right, perfect. I can see it now. Can you all see my slides now as a full slide presentation?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Interesting topic, highly misunderstood area. Sometimes it becomes a gravity for organizations to try to figure out what it is. But looking at you, let me draw to a small example in a story that I have. Now, when I get fed by my mother, it's the best feeling ever. I don't know how many of you may agree. If you lost your mother, my apologies for this example, if I'm bringing back memories that I shouldn't. But I'm living in Malaysia right now, and my parents are back in Sri Lanka. And when I grew up in a small flat, a 900 square feet flat. There were just 2 rooms and 1 shared toilet amongst 4 of us. And the best experience that I would always find myself is when my mother feeds me. I don't know how many of you all will have similar experiences or feelings. And she will make the rice into a ball and then feed me. Now, I have no problems taking the food. It's fantastic. It tastes so nice because I know what she cooks is made out of pure love, made out of ingredients that she could afford to buy and source from the best places in which she can take it from. And I know my father works hard to make sure that he can provide for the same thing. So whatever that my mother gives as food, I may like it or may not like it, but I trust what she provides. And I think it's the same for most of you. Now, can you remember the time that you had the worst stomach upset by going to a restaurant and eating in one? Sorry, I'm not giving you very wonderful examples or memories to think about at this moment. But if you have, do you actually see how they source their food, their supplies, where they get their vegetables from, where they get their meat from? How often do they wash their plates in a proper and decent manner? The employees, are they getting paid very fairly? Do they have a fair share of salaries? Do they have working resting time? Some employees work 12 to 18 hours. These thoughts come through our minds because the most important component that when we are interacting with an outside stakeholder is the word called trust. Now, when your director or your lecturer says something and asks you all something to do, you don't think twice about it because there's a huge amount of trust. But when you look at organizations, individuals, the first paint or picture that comes is this. Do you agree? I certainly think so. And the pandemic, in most instances, has brought out this story more than anything else. Look at how many companies and CEOs and business leaders took the right decision to protect the interest of the staff and look after them versus how many of them laid employees off. I work for a company at once, which is a NASDAQ listed organization. Every quarter performance, when they feel that it's going to go into a bit of a red or they're missing their forecast, you know what they would do? Lay off employees. Now just think about that. When you're laid off, the direct consequences for the organization, budget cuts, you save on money, which means your cost comes down, which means your bottom line goes up. You meet your quarter forecast, you're happy. The board of directors or the CEO will get their share of the bonuses or the profit incentive plan provided. And they remain happy because they go towards the year to meet their targets. Now look at the indirect cost on the consequences of that single person who was laid off. What would happen to him or her? Go back home and tell his wife or her husband, I don't have a job. They have commitments to pay in terms of education, schooling, to provide basic facilities, to put roof over head, to provide food for the family. They may have parents to care for. Now, how many board directors and CEOs sit and take that kind of a very constructive decision in making that point towards high level of profits and revenue over everything else? It is. And here's what the movement that is driving. And every one of you in this room are part of it. This generation is fantastic. This generation knows to voice out things. They are not afraid. When it comes to climate change matters, they are not going to sit back and take no notice of it. You are the generation that's driving change in a manner that you haven't seen. You remember the girl at the bottom? All of you all might know her. I'm not going to do a quiz now because that might raise some level of worry or anxiety. Do we have more questions? That's Greta Thunberg. Donald Trump is not a very favorite fan of hers, but who cares? A lot of people like her because she came and spoke the truth. She didn't have scripted meeting notes. She didn't have a speech that was written to her. She spoke out of the heart. She spoke about matters that actually matter to her and the future generations to come. People are not going to sit back and take no for an answer anymore. And look at that image of world leaders out there. Honestly, hand to heart, can you point out and tell me how many of them do you trust? Or how many of them can you name? And the rest of the world's future is left with a group of people over there who worry about short-term performance. Why? Election matters, public perception matters. Their own popularity, how their party is being viewed by everyone, and of course, their personal greed that is attached with them. I mean, if you were to point out and tell me that no leader, all the leaders there have the highest level of integrity, I think I might question it. So would so many people. I know I'm making very strong statements on the first 2 weeks of the year, but this is reality. I can't take that or remove that away. Think about it for a second. And in India, you have so many leaders that you look up to who you want them to make the right decisions. And the thing that differentiates between you and them is a word called trust. Right. Let's go deeper. Now, have you heard of a thing called the Great Resignation? Normally in an audience, when I speak at a conference, I can see hundreds and hundreds of faces. Now I have to rely on small little boxes. You believe it or not, I'm not looking at the presentation. I'm looking at all of you at the moment. Have you heard of this thing called the Great Resignation? And if somebody has, would you be able to unmute yourself and tell me what it is all about?
Oh, yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Sir, during the pandemic, we saw a great trend that a lot of people were resigning their jobs, especially in the US. So that is what is Great Resignation according to. Brilliant.
What's driving that?
Sir, I feel the uncertainty about the future and, one cause may be giving priority to things that actually matter because the future, the pandemic has shown that the future, what tomorrow holds is really uncertain. So I feel that might be one of the driving factors.
Thank you. Am I to call you Yash, right? That's your name, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Yash. So here's the piece, right? So they did an interview with few people to understand what the Great Resignation was all about. So they went, believe it or not, they didn't go to an office in a building who wear ties and shirts. They decided to go to a warehouse. And there was this driver of a forklift truck in the warehouse. All he has to do was to move the items from one area to the truck or the lorry that takes the shipment and goes. His sister had cancer. And one day his sister needed somebody to be around him to administer medication. And she reached out to her brother and said, can you please come and be with me for the next 5 hours? He said, no problem, but I'll just speak to my supervisor. Went and asked the supervisor, hey, I just need to take 5 hours off. Can I go and come back? Because my sister who's having cancer, I need to support her. Guess what the supervisor's answer was? Oh, no, sorry, we don't have anybody to replace. These things need to move, do it now. Without a single second of a thought, he gave the forklift truck, the forklift key to the supervisor and says, I'm off. Now, our parents inculcated the belief in us that you shouldn't leave your job. Our parents inculcated the values in us that when you work, you have to look at the next 15 to 16 years loyalty grow, because that's how they grew in organizations or the place of work. Our parents inculcated values in us, which means time of resiliency. Work is most important. Family don't matter. Ooh, how dangerous was it? This man was still, when they spoke to him 3 months later, happy that he made the right decision. He didn't think for a second, I'm not going to earn about the future. Now, it's not the great resignation, if you ask me, that matters. It's the great repurpose. During pandemic, everybody started thinking about themselves more than anyone else. What am I doing? Who am I? What's my value? What's my purpose? How am I contributing? What am I supposed to do in the world? Am I buying a product from the organization that's actually filled with values, or am I not? Am I contributing something positive? Because we had time to do that. The great resignation links to great repurpose because people started asking their purpose in life. So did I. So did everyone in my team. Because we made sure that mental health becomes more important than outcomes, performance, or anything else. Because at the end of the day, an organization will continue to exist 100 years from now. Your life is only once. And quite honestly, will the organization think of you 80 years on from now? Think about that. Let's go deeper into one more area where you, the younger generation, are driving. Interesting image I'm going to show next. Let's see who the first person who can name the image or what it represents. Are you ready, guys? Okay, here we go. No one? And I thought here we had a very group of diverse young people who are connected more than anything else. I thought you all might know.
Suman Jain, I believe, has raised the hand. Suman Jain.
Yes.
Go ahead, Suman.
So I don't know what it is particularly, but I know for a fact that it's a class of NFTs.
Oh, Suman, this guy deserves a prize. It's an NFT, a non-fungible token. Anybody can tell me what the value of this token is right now. This is an image, one of its kind in the world. Only one person owns it. There are 8,888 of these tokens of different colors, size, same shape, but different things. Anybody can tell me the value of that now? This is called the Bored Ape Yacht Club, BAYC. Google it when you have time. It's worth 300,000 US dollars. When it was sold for 0.02 Ethereum, which was nearly about $400. 6 months later, this is worth 300,000 US dollars. NFTs. This is owned by, if you watch basketball, Stephen Curry, it's owned by Eminem. All the big entrepreneurs, businessmen, sports media personalities in the US own one of these NFTs, 300,000 US dollars. The movement in NFTs came about because there were people who felt they were underrepresented. Why? Have you thought about share trading? It's very complex, right? You have to look at a company's portfolio, its assets, its valuation. It has to, you look at its PE ratio. You have to look at many factors in terms of making a decision to invest in a company or not. And some people make a hell of a lot of money on stocks. The others do suffer. Now, there was a community who said, well, we are not included in this piece. Because there's a community who felt they were underrepresented, not valued. And this community is your age, by the way, or younger. And they said, we are going to take control of what we do. So what they did was got artists to develop NFTs, and they started investing their crypto. I know in India, crypto is it's a topic of debate and discussion, but doesn't matter. There in the world, they decided to invest in this because they felt this is causing less harm to the world because there's no production involved in this. An artist who can produce this, in the past, 5 years ago, imagine in Indore or in Mumbai or in Chennai would display this somewhere. Nobody will look to, will not give a second eye to this. Will just walk away. That artist has a world's focus on him, and they're giving more opportunities. The underrepresented is being enabled. The younger crowd who would not earn that much of money now have an opportunity to trade. And if you go to the NFT platforms, there are 6,000 owners of each NFT art who are investing anything between $200 to $300 or thousands of dollars because they see value in this. I'm not going to explain about NFTs here. This is not the conversation about it. Maybe in another time. In the past 3 weeks, I spent 6 hours trying to understand it. I have invested in NFTs because I wanted to learn what it's all about. The world is moving where underrepresented people want to have control over their future. The world is moving away from traditional greed to a lot of things where people want to use technology like you to connect with people, transact with people, and have an ownership over their time. Bored Ape Yacht Club. Now, why does this matter to us? And now the world we live in. I always use this to describe the world we live in because it's fantastic. Most of you all must be single. So it's easy for me to use this example because from a single world, what happens to you is that you have control over your time. Yes or no? You wake up in the morning and you decide, right, what you want to do. Your parents may have a control over that. Your university may have control over the classes and the curriculums, but you're in control, meaning you have a greater rationality. Your parents might think that you might not have rationality, but I tell you, students of your age have better rationality than most people. You have control over your time. That means you know what you're going to do. You have control. Married people here will tell you a little bit different. As we get married, it's not that we don't have control. A little bit of uncertainty arrives. When you get married, you're trying to figure out your wardrobe space. How much of wardrobe am I going to have when I move in with my wife for the first time? I was told that I'm not going to have much shoe space because her pair of shoes of my wife took most of the area where her shoes are being displayed. So I'm trying to figure things out. And there's less control in my life because earlier I would decide when I want to go to sleep, what I want to eat. Now I have to consult my wife. My wife has to consult me. We go to visit our in-laws. There's a lot of deliberation that needs to be done. You have a child. From a very complex environment, it goes into chaotic environment. The first time we had our daughter, I still remember the amount of times we used to visit a pediatric doctor because we were not sure whether something was wrong with our child or not. If she coughs, we are worried. If she doesn't cough, we are worried. If she doesn't say something, we are worried. Now my daughter is 8 years old. It takes us 15 minutes to leave home. Why? She has to decide, and there's always a debate or argument as to what she wants to wear, what shoes she wants to wear, and whether she's in a mood to go out or not. And by the time that 15 minutes end, my wife and I exhausted, we ask ourselves, do we have to go out? Can we stay at home and order something in? Now, the world in which most chief executives all live is a chaotic world. Why? It's complex and chaotic because there's a lot of uncertainty. I'm not going to talk about all of these things because they are very academic and you can pick these images up later to have a look. But it's important that we as people need to move away from this rational world and be in this complex world to understand the changes that takes place and what drivers of change in order to support the decisions made by organization. Why is that important? Because they have different stakeholders to satisfy. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but I'll just touch upon those few areas. The board only wants to focus in terms of maximizing shareholder value. That's it. Right? So if you look at a CEO or board director, usually given a 3-year term. And in a 3-year term, they're given performance incentives every year for achieving certain targets. And I believe the faculty would have read about this and they know about short-termism. There's a huge anger towards chief executives and board directors who are short-termism because they make decisions whether they achieve the year-end profits or not, because that's what its drivers are. What you set is what you achieve at the end of the day. I mean, no organization gives a CEO a 10-year term and says, if you bring profits of this nature and manage sustainability, we'll give you this bonuses. It's a very debatable area right now. And if you look at customers and vendors, what do they want? Customers don't want to pay more than what they need. Have you ever walked into a shop and looked at that item that you're buying, a pair of shoes, and told the person who's selling it, I like to pay 150 rupees more than what the price is? No. In India, I am sure, and I'm half Indian, so I can claim that to be, we like to ask discounts. Everywhere we'll go, we'll debate for discounts because we want a lower transaction cost. And the companies that sell items to people will always try to portray that. So they have to cut costs somewhere, right, in order to give you this. So production facilities will be moved into a cheaper location. Labor will be paid at a cheaper rate. The material that they procure, will it be of good quality? Think about those things. Then you have business leaders. They are the ones who are making the decision as to where an organization should be in 5 to 10 years' time. What kind of information and what do they need to be supported about? Think about that. And of course, invest in analysis. Now, let me go into a most important area, which was touched by Dr. Prachi Gharpure. It's about sustainability and the 17 areas of sustainability goals. Now, I'm not going to make an academic presentation on this. I'm going to link up why sustainability matters to the areas that I spoke about earlier. I'm sure you would be aware of this. Don't want to go through it in detail, but let me link up something important. Why does sustainability matters to business? If you live in Delhi, would you like the weather there? People in Delhi, anybody from Delhi, do you like the smoke that happens every year? Actually, I think before COVID started, you all were wearing masks, even before COVID started, because of the pollution that happens in Delhi, right? Climate change. I mean, imagine the amount of times in Malaysia, where I am, every year there used to be 1 month. It's called the haze. You know what that haze is? In Indonesia, there's oil palm plantations. They produce big time oil palm. And when they cut the seed or cut the area of the crop where they need to get the oil palm, they have to replant the tree. The tree doesn't grow and produce oil palm. They had to destroy the. So the easiest thing to do, rather than removing the tree and the root, is to burn it. So they burn the entire forest, the entire area of agriculture there. And the haze from there lasts for 1 month, where our windows are closed. We don't go out. We do not have an external outdoor activity. It affects Singapore and Malaysia every year. Both the governments decided that they're going to ban or put heavy fines in terms of companies who do that. Now, think about in India, pollution. I believe India had a problem with the COPAC as well, right? The UN sustainability outcomes as well, because they said it's easy for you to make all these measures in terms of reducing gas emission levels and everything, but we have to put food on people's plate. We have to have employability. We have to have manufacturing. We can't do this overnight. So there's a balance. Income inequality, big area. 2% of the world's population owns 90% of the wealth. You know that. And they control the destiny of money and money flow. Natural resources, human rights issues are becoming big and big, where people, Qatar was a big example on this when they're hosting the World Cup football, because the kind of development that they had, they brought workers from South Asia, put them in very extraordinary, awful working conditions, and asked them to develop stadiums. And some of them did not even get paid. And they pay $150 million for David Beckham to become the ambassador. Something doesn't seem right. So all of these issues raise sustainability questions. And importantly, during the pandemic, these questions started coming out louder. These are the areas. Why? Because we kind of knew what our vulnerabilities during the lockdown were. Companies started seeing it because people started understanding that during the first 2 months of lockdown, you do realize that the environment was getting better. No flights, no car riding on the roads. I know in India, they had fun taking, the police had to hit a button and hit everybody who were driving on motorbikes, breaking the curfews or the lockdowns. There was a consciousness in terms of environmental and other matters. Consumers developed a conscience as well. It's not about lower price. They wanted to make sure something was procured from an area of importance. Employees also cared about value. Now, this is critical. This has led to the Great Resignation piece as well. Why? When you go for employability, the organization will ask you questions as to why you should be employed in that company, right? Guess what's changing now? People are getting interviewed, are asking employers, what's the value you bring that I should be part of your organization? Think about that for a second. And I'm sure you will be trained in an interview to answer every single question the way the employer wants. You'll be trained in that manner, how you shake your hand, how you sit, how you present. But a lot more people are asking questions. Why should I work for you? What are your values? How do you contribute towards this? How can I make sure that I'm part of your responsibility or part of your plans? Sustainability in the past, why it was misunderstood, because they used to use the word sustainability as corporate social responsibility in the past. Awful term. They'll go to an orphanage, take photos and show, here's our sustainability initiatives. Once a year, they'll do something and portray into the annual reports. But no more is it a differentiator, it's a necessity. And importantly, sustainability is the new reality. Why? We have to change the way we are reporting our performance. There's a component called ESG, I'll touch in a while. No more are we looking at top line, bottom line only. A lot more questions can be asked and asked. Those who are doing finance, you're part of the solution and you're still part of the problem. And I'll address that shortly. And technology helps a lot of change. Now, why management accounting becomes important? And here's the key differentiator for sustainability. If you're doing financial accounting, great. Now, what do? You report financial performance, you look at regulation, you do quantitative financial certainty, you look at historical information, great. You do reporting on technical analytical, like PE ratios and the different ratios that you have. And of course, your area of compliance. You do understand numbers, but you don't understand how to connect the numbers and make a story out of it. And why management accounting adds value in sustainability is simple. Management accounting is just not about financial reporting performance. We don't do that, actually. We don't focus on that most of the time. I'm a management accountant, never have. Most of my time is, how do I create value for the organization? What are the business opportunities? And link that with sustainability. How can I bring those business opportunities that is sustainable, that won't affect the climate, but will be helpful for the generations that we serve? Cost doesn't become a factor anymore. Value becomes a factor. We don't look at laws, standards, and regulations only. We look at best practices. Innovation is how another person is using something to benefit them. How can we bring that into our organization and use that? So we look at best practices, see what companies are doing, and recommend that internally. A lot of finance people focus on tangibles. Management accountants focus on intangibles. We look at value creation. A brand is intangible in its value. Apple, which is $1 trillion company, most of its balance sheet items are in terms of its IP, intangibles. We live in a dynamic environment, not a static environment, because things change radically, drastically. Management accountants are looked to make those decisions. And importantly, what we do is we communicate to the organization and inspire others to be part of our journey. And of course, we don't look at strategy, we look at compliance. And with that piece, what allows us to move is into the component of ESG. How many of you have heard of ESG and understand ESG? Environmental sustainability and governance. ESG has become an important area now, and it'll become the continued important area where organizations report their performance differently, just not on top line and bottom line measures, but how decisions that are taken impact environmental concerns, social concerns, and governance concerns. They are looking at health safety measures. They're looking at how our employees being treated. In Malaysia, there's a company called Top Glove. They are manufacturing masks and rubber products, by the way, to the US. During pandemic, that company grew in its revenue immensely. Because why? That supply was needed because there was a demand. But their hiring practices were of concern because they were taking low quality staff, paying them very low amount of money, putting them in extraordinary working practices and not looking after them. The US government banned them. Less people want to be included in those companies who have those bad performance. And with social media and technology, that information can be passed on. Governance, part of it, we have high ethical standards that we maintain. We want fair share of what we pay, what we give as performance. Here's a conversation. When an employee leaves an organization saying, I just got a 2% raise or a 5% raise, very often the company thinks I've retained that person. And when the person comes and says, no, I'm leaving, they'll say, why are you leaving? We have given you a 5% raise. But companies stopped listening to employees in terms of what they need. Employees need flexibility. They have more important things in nature. So the governance side of it is not just to look at short-termism in terms of bottom line, but to look at long-term and its impact. In conclusion, I don't need to speak about this slide. There's a balance in which organizations do, yes, do well, make money, because their shareholders are going to be up on your head if you don't do that and breathing down your neck, but do good. And the last part I'll leave you with, this is important to you. You need to have leadership with a conscience. Somebody asked me, what does conscience mean? I say that if I can sleep very well at night, because I know I have done the right thing, I can sleep very well at night. I wake up in the morning without a problem. I treated my staff right. I treated my family right. I'm doing everything fair by them. That's leadership with a conscience. Most leaders who cut costs, do the wrong things, they don't have a conscience. Some of them get into alcoholism because they don't want to think about that. They go back and drink to suppress their feelings. They get into addictive measures, but that's the way they go. You are the future when you step out. The consciousness that you bring, the decisions and the deliberations that you bring will help you guide towards a better world in which we live. I will never be forced to do something that is not right. I'll rather walk away and live with a conscience that I don't cause harm to the society in which I drive or part of, a culture of my family in which I put them into trouble, or my employees are in a bad state of affairs at the end of the day. I'd rather have that conscience, because that's what leadership matters. And that's sustainability. Thank you. I'll be guided by, if there are any questions that need to be asked, otherwise I'm happy to step out.
Sure, sir. So there are a few questions that I've received.
Sure.
I'd like to read it out.
Will somebody be reading the questions to me?
Just a second, sir.
Sure.
So the first question is, sustainability is a business necessity, not a differentiator. Still nowadays, India is lagging behind in this, as still some of the businesses in India are not following sustainability. So according to you, what could be the reason for the same?
There are many reasons. You can't pin it into one reason. Walk into any board or any organization and ask them to explain the word sustainability. You'll get 15 different explanations provided. Then you look at the organization in the way it's run. You ask the CFO, what does sustainability mean? His view will be different to a CEO. His view will be different to a CMO. His view will be different to everyone else. So it's the problem is there's no alignment in terms of understanding what sustainability means. There's no alignment in bringing force of sustainability, because they feel in India, specifically in South Asia, everybody wants a product of low cost. We just provide them. Everybody needs a plate to eat their food. Don't worry about anything else. They keep it at a bare minimum. But you can't blame countries like India for that. Let me give you an example, right? When Omnicon took place in Africa, what did the rest of the world? They put travel bans. The worst thing you could ever do was that, because Africa should be actually, countries in Africa should be thanked for discovering Omnicon, but what did they do? They put travel bans. The problem in why Omnicon came in the first place was because the European nations and the most richest nations hogged vaccines and ensured that the vaccines were kept in stock in their countries, and equal share of vaccines were not provided to Africa. So vaccination rate was 25% in Omnicon was discovered. So you need to think about India as a nation, and you can't just push sustainability in day one, because there are a lot of different agendas. People look at livelihoods, their dependencies. It's a long-term view, but it has to start somewhere. So consciously, where a business leader steps in and says, look, this is something that we are not going to get in 5 years, but we are going to do it in 15 years. And I will change my performance measures towards that. Judge me based on that. Recruit people who have the same values, inculcate that belief into the organization. So it's alignment, it's understanding, it's based on the needs. Some companies are doing it, but it has to be more than just a gravy train, or it has to be more than just a photo opportunity.
Sorry for the inconvenience. I think sir have some technical issues, so he would be joining back. I'd request everyone to please wait.
My apologies. Technology can have its limitations. They told me to shut up. Sorry about
no
that.
issues, sir. No issues.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, sir. So another question that we've received is, different leaders have a different understanding of importance of thinking about the employees. So some go to a great extent for the same way above the industry standards, and some leaders do just enough so that the employees are, to the par level of satisfaction. So how this difference affects the business and its profits in the long run?
I think it's about the integrity in how you run an organization, and action speaks more louder than words. Just, I will not name this leader. You may be able to figure him out. This leader, I hope that, well, let me tell you the story. This leader was in an airline industry in Asia. During the crisis of the whole area of COVID, this leader and his organization, they laid off employees, right? So why? We're running a business, we're a listed company. Nobody can fly, we have losses, so we're going to laid off employees. So a week later, the same leader went and took a photograph of him standing behind a Tesla car and saying, I am helping sustainability, and here's my new Tesla car because I'm helping drive sustainability. Now, the country in which this leader
Sorry, guys. I think sir is facing some technical issues. He would join again in a few minutes.
Sorry about that. That was, I have maximized the output of the speed on the internet, so apologies. So I think I left with the Tesla car example, right? Did you all hear that component? Okay. Yeah, so this leader bought a Tesla car and put it on his Twitter saying, I bought a Tesla car, I'm helping drive sustainability. This is my new piece of sustainable support that I'm doing. The Tesla car was not a cheap product in the country where he lives because it is heavily, heavily taxed. It's considered a luxury car. Now, the optics was very bad. Because everybody, even the public, commented on that saying, you just laid off employees last week. Why are you going and buying a Tesla car right now? Don't you think that money could be put to better use? We live in a world where transparency is at the highest sense. Information can be shared immediately and multiplied through WhatsApp, Twitter. You have things like, for example, TikTok, which allows you to share stories. Everybody's under a gauge of eyes. So it is inculcating the values and beliefs, but setting the long-term thing. I think that's where it matters. You are not in that process where you are in your room on the 33rd floor in a cozy, cushy office. Leaders are now in a glass bowl. They're living in a glass bowl. They need to be careful. They need to be able to look at the impact of what it would do to employees by making these kind of decisions and focus on the long term. By the way, one more thing. If you're looking for a job and you join you're looking to join an organization and you do their research, they laid off employees 3 times over the past 5 years, what would you do? Just think about that. Any other questions?
Yes, sir. We have a few more questions in line.
Sure.
But sir, sorry, but due to the time constraint, the students will connect you on LinkedIn.
Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you again for the university. Thank you for organizing this, and thank you for having me. My pleasure. And I apologize for my dress code. Next time I'll try to wear a jacket if it can fit me. Thank you.
No, sir. We thank you so much, sir. And the session was quite valuable. I think also thank you for taking out your time and answering the questions. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite our co-convener, Dr. Akshay Joshi, to give the vote of thanks for inaugural session. Dr. Akshay Joshi is an experienced business strategist with a demonstrated history of working in the education management industry. He has a professional experience of more than 15 years. Dr. Joshi is specialized in business strategy and operations management domain. He has taught courses in strategy and operations management domain like strategic management, operations management, supply chain management, project management, lean enterprise, service operations, technology management, international business, managing growth, business simulation, and many more. He is skilled in e-learning, business planning, strategy and operations area. Strong education professional with a doctorate in strategic management and an MBA in operations, and has handled a lot of administrative positions during his tenure. He is the member of Board of Studies, School of Business Management, SVKM's NMIMS Indore, an alumni of IIM Indore, and a full member of Indian Institute of Materials Management. Along with this, he is associated with reputed institutes in Central India, won a number of accolades during the tenure. He has his research interests, conferences, and publications in the area of interest, some of which are performance and competitive advantage, resource-based view of strategy, modeling in management, have international and national level publications. And so I request you to please come forward and say a few words.
Thank you so much, Ekta, for this warm introduction. And indeed, it's a wonderful start to our second international virtual conference on advances in business management and sustainable development, ICABMS, organized by SVKM's NMIMS Indore campus in collaboration with Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, that is CIMA UK. So I take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt gratitude and acknowledge people who have been associated and very instrumental in bringing this wonderful event together. So I'll start by expressing my gratitude with our chief patron, Shri Amrish Bhai Patel, our Honorable Chancellor, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Ramesh Bhatt, our Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Shri Sharad Maheshkar, our campus mentor, Shri Akhilesh Rathiji, our Honorable Director Ma'am, Dr. Prachi Gharpure, our Associate Dean, School of Business Management, Dr. Samir Pingle, convener of the conference, Dr. Ramzan Sama, my faculty colleagues, and this wonderful team of students who are the backbone of this arrangement and are doing these things. Along with that, I would like to especially mention our collaborators, our partners in collaboration, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, who basically decided to join hands with us in this particular conference, looking at the theme and looking at these all aspects. In fact, our chief guest of the day, Mr. Ramanan, who I was listening to, he is also from the same area. He's FCMA, CGMA, Vice President, and associated with the CIMA. Along with that, I'll take this opportunity to thank Mr. Rohit Mohan, who is the market specialist in CIMA, Ms. Tasneem Kapil, who is the lead manager, National Markets India Limited, and our very own Professor Dr. Niranjan Shastri, who was instrumental in bringing this collaboration together with these two organizations. Along with that, I would like to thank our administrative support staff team, our technical team led by Mr. Gaurav Muke and all other support staff. So, and most of the big thank to all my students, the fellow researchers, people who are presenting the papers here, students for listening and understanding the theme of the conference, listening to various sessions and having a goal set of doing good research work in these particular areas. So again, I would like to thank to all of them. And as co-convener of ICABMS, I'll request everyone to have a good, enriching experience with this particular conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. With this, we are through with our inaugural. We are taking a short break. We would start our first track sharp at 11:30 a.m. I request all the presenters to be ready.